It was time for round 7 of the Total Sprint series, and it was my second round of the year, and also it was the last. So it was taking place at the Snetterton 300 layout with the massive Bentley straight. So I was really, really worried about the little Aygo 76 horsepower even having a chance. I expected us to be last. Let's be honest, last. I expected nothing of it. The weather was set to be wet. It was. It was wet and slippery, and then it was like dry patches, and then wet, and then it rained, and then the sun came out. Then it just went freezing cold, and it rained. So it was a really, really challenging day for me. I arrived on the Friday night. I wasn't very well due to having some neck problems, so I went straight to bed, and it was a cold, early, dark start, which was something I've not had this year, but there we are. It's what we do to go racing. You can't have everything. You can't always have sunshine and lollipops and happiness. So we woke up early and headed down to Snetterton and got to our garages. Unfortunately, all the garages were locked, so we had to find some guy with a key. And then we had to rush through the scrutiny hearing after we changed the wheels and tyres. And it was generally a bit of a rush job. Snetterton's always been kind to me as a circuit, but never getting there. The trip there has been always a nightmare. The trip home is always a nightmare. I think it's just from my location to where the location of the circuit is just makes it a bit more difficult. But again, didn't stop me from going. So you can see the car set up. We still went with the R888Rs instead of the just standard road tyres. I really did hope it was going to dry up, but the consensus seemed to be that we all thought run 2 would be the only sort of drying or semi-dry lap, still with a layer of grease. And that really was the story of the day. I think everybody had to go for it on run 2. Run 1, I went out after this. We had a practice lap, and I went out on run 1, and it was just sideways everywhere. It was so greasy, and we just spent most of the time battling the car. So with more power, I think things would have been even worse. And then it started to spit again down on the Bentley straight, and as you go under the bridge, it was just like ice. Coram again, like ice, couldn't really do much there, and through all the time we were losing, I just thought, oh my god. Luckily, I came in, crossed the timing line with a 2:55 through the grease and wet and standing water, and that did put us above quite a few cars. I was actually really shocked that I don't know, I just expected people to have done a bit better than they actually did. So we came in, run 2 was up next, 40 minutes waiting for people to come through. The times were improving, and as we lined up onto the start line again, it started to spit rain. The floor was still wet, the track was still wet, and I just thought, I've got to go for this. And as you can see here on the timesheet, I only did 2 runs. We all knew number 2 was going to be the fastest. I went out and I just tried to be as flat as I could everywhere. A lot of sliding, a lot of correction needed. I knew I was on for a quick lap. I came round Coram. I was absolutely foot to the board. But for Murray's, it was an ice ring. As I braked far too late and knew it was too late, I ran wide. I went over the curb, past the curbs, off the track, held it, managed to come back on the track and cross the line for a 2:50, which put me ahead of a Glanza, as you can see here, Celica's, GT6, Yaris T-Sport, Celica GT4, a really well sorted Glanza. And that was pretty much the story of the day. Lunchtime was up after run 2. We went for lunch and it absolutely hammered down. Run 3 was up next, and I decided not to go out because it was just a waste of time. Lots of people did, but most people running over a minute slower. And obviously it's a risk reward because I drive the car there and I got to drive it home, and on average occasion it's about 6 hours, sometimes 7, 5 if we're lucky. And I thought to myself, it was quite an off to have in the slippery conditions, let alone in standing water. And then on the story of the day really was just on off, rain, cold, then a bit of sun, then cold, then rain. And so I wisely think I decided to call it a day. It was never going to go quicker. And that was it really. And fortunately, I did have my GoPro with me, but on the start line, I was so in a world of my own, concentrating and thinking about what I was going to do, that I didn't actually press record either time. So for the first time ever, I've not got any footage. So if anybody came here looking for footage of my lap, then I'm sorry. I'm a little bit gutted actually, because I was hoping that I would be able to show you my spectacular off into Murray's. But that's not going to happen. I'm sure there'll be one in the future. There was quite a few bumps and scrapes. A few people left the circuit. Some with minor damage, some with a bit more damage. So I'm hoping they're all okay and they'll be back next year. But, once again, what can I say? The car is just a tremendous fun to drive. And, you get the best out of it. You've really got to push. So it was very challenging for me this weekend. I don't consider myself to be one of the best drivers. Even if my results of recent are showing that I'm pushing the boundaries of probably what this car can do. Actually, more myself, what I can do. I'm hoping to be back next year. I don't know. It all depends on work. And I'm hoping to get a few sponsors. It would really take some of the pressure off, the cost of hotels and fuel and all those types of things. But I'd like to thank everyone who supported me this year and hopefully continue to do so next year. Thank you very much.